Okay, here we're going to be working with reviewing. This is a review skill from earlier this year, reviewing converting our decimals into fractions. The new pieces is working those fractions or those percents into fractions, depending on if they are giving us some whole number percents or decimal percents. So to convert a number into its fraction form, you must first look at it in terms of its place value or in its decimal form, and then reduce if needed. So for example, 45%, I could actually go directly into its fraction form because that number is always over 100. So 45 over 100. Now I need to understand that I have to reduce if I possibly can. So in order to be fully proficient on this, you have to be able to reduce your answer. So here I can see that 5 would go into each of these. So I'm going to divide by 5 over 5. So that becomes 9 over 20 for my final answer. And you will have to do this on your assessment. You're going to be converting between all three percents, decimals, and fractions, and your fractions have to be in lowest terms. Okay, so for this one, 0.95, well, this is a review skill from earlier in the year. I have 1, 2, 3 numbers, so it's 95 over a 1 with 3 zeros. The way that you would read that, I know some of you are comfortable with reading from its decimal form, 95 hundredths. Some of you aren't. The other method is to write the non-zero numbers and then put it over the number of places that are behind that decimal. That's how many zeros you have in your bottom number. Now I'm noticing 5 would go into each of these. So if I divide by 5 over 5, it becomes 19 over 200. So 19 200ths. Okay, so let's practice a few more of those. Like I said, this is more of a review skill. They kind of just pieced in the percentages in there, which we actually have already reviewed earlier in this chapter. Okay, so I have 0.24 and 1.23 and 0.115. So we have to remember, if we're writing these out, we're going to think of them in their format. We either have to convert them to percents and then do that, which isn't always the best option because sometimes we end up with a decimal and we can't leave a decimal within our fraction format. So I like to just use the place value when it's in decimal form. So I have 24, there's 2 places. I would read that as 24 hundredths, but some people struggle with that. So I'm going to write 24 as my top number, a 1 with 1, 2 zeros. So notice I said 24 hundredths earlier. Look at what my fraction is now, 24 hundredths. Now I have to reduce from that form. So divide by, I can see 2 would go into it, but there's a bigger number of 4. So I'm going to divide by 4 over 4. 24 divided by 4 gives me 6. 100 divided by 4 gives me 25. So final answer would be 6/25. Okay, this next one, I have a number in front of my decimal. That's just going to sit out in front of my fraction. So now I'm writing this 0.23 as its fraction. So I have 23 as my top number over a 1 with 1, 2 zeros. So 1 and 23 hundredths. Okay. The last one, so I'm going to write this out as my top number. So 115 over, there's 1, 2, 3 places. So a 1 with 3 zeros is thousandths. So 115 thousandths. Okay, that can now be reduced down because for sure 5 would go into each of those. Divide by 5 over 5. So 115 divided by 5 would give me 23. Over 1,000 divided by 5 is going to give me 200. So 23 over 200 for that last one. Okay. The other method is yes, you could convert it to a percent, but then like on number 4, it would look really confusing because you would have 11.5 over 100. You cannot leave a decimal in your answer of a fraction, so you would have to shift over one place on the bottom. Also notice that it's still 115 over 1,000. I get the same answer either way. You have to decide what you're most comfortable with. If you want to convert it to a percent first, that's perfectly fine, but then remember to reduce your answers, and you can't leave a decimal in your final fraction answer. Oops. Okay, so let's try some percents directly into fractions. Okay, remember that percent sign means over 100. So you can either convert and write it originally over 100 and then work off of that. I personally would prefer to see it in its decimal form. So I'm going to take that step first on each of these. So decimal not shown on this 13 means it's there. 1, 2. This is the same as 0.13. So I would write 13 over a 1 with 1, 2 zeros. So 13 hundredths. Okay. You have to remember to convert it away from the percent. So away from the percent 2 places, 0.005. So that would be a 5 on top. And then 1, 2, 3 places is 1,000, 3 zeros. That would reduce because 5 would go into both of those. 1 over 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. That would be my final answer. And then number 4, or the last one, away from a percent into its decimal form. Even though there's a decimal there, if we are going to work off of the decimal form, we still have to get that percent sign out of there. So it becomes 0.355. We moved away from the percent sign. That's why we got rid of the percent sign. And then I would read that as 355 over 1,000 because there's 3 places behind there. Now that can reduce. Once again, for sure, 5 would go into both of those. And it may reduce further, but we'll start off. So 355 divided by 5, well, there's 20, 40, 60 in my 300. And then 11 more would give me 71 over 200 reduced. And yes, you could use a calculator to help you with your reduction. That's fine. Okay, if you were choosing to go directly into over 100 because it's a percent, you'll notice on like number 4, this would be 0.5 over 100. Okay, so remember you can't leave a decimal, so I'd have to go 1 place backwards, which means I'm going to have to add 1 0 on the bottom. Notice it still looks the same as what I had there. Okay, so this would be 35.5 over 100. My decimal I have to get out of there, so 1 place. So I'd have to go 1 more place there to be over 1,000. Looks exactly what we had there too. So that's your other option. You have to decide what works best for you. Good luck with this part of this lesson. So remember that if you're going to work from the percent form directly into a fraction, you cannot leave a decimal in there. Good luck.